It's sponsor time.
Good morning. Good morning.
How do you start your day
morning.
every day, Ames?
I start mine.
It doesn't begin with song. It begins with coffee.
You know, it does begin with a song. Well, it begins with coffee and then I go into song.
Exactly.
Because I'm drinking Chimera coffee. That's with a K.
Okay.
I don't know how else you would have spelled it, but it's with a K.
There's nootropics in it. It helps your brain fire off rounds quicker.
Dude, I'm on just like fire right now.
Boom.
I'm in the zone. I am focused and ready to go because of my coffee.
I
don't have anything else, man.
You're so focused that I can't even focus on how focused you are.
Homie,
I need to drink Chimera coffee and get on that level.
You do, man, because you look a little emo right now. I'm not going to lie. You look emo.
Okay.
Usually don't, but today you do, and I know why.
Why?
Because you didn't drink that goodness, brother.
Okay, I'm going to go.
You didn't drink Miss Brown Eyes.
Chimera coffee.
Chimera coffee, guys. Get that discount.
Yeah, go to Chimera Coffee. They got
every cent counts.
They got their nootropic blend. They got their they have two blends. They have
Tell me about it. Which
this cacao powder that you can buy, and you could just make hot chocolate, or you can add it to your hot coffee, your Chimera coffee.
I like that.
They got the dopest looking shirts because their logo is pretty cool. And they have cups and stuff. You can get mugs
you get a lot
to
of stuff.
store your coffee in while you're drinking it. Things like that.
Guys, go check it out.
ChimeraCoffee.com.
You're welcome.
Coupon code is showtheART. No spaces.
Hey, Abe.
Yo.
We're going to podcast, but why are you wearing a gi right now? We're not training anytime soon.
Because I'm in love with this inverted gear gi.
Dude, it looks pretty. It doesn't look pretty fresh. It looks fresh to death, man.
Check this out. What I'm wearing right now is exclusive ShowtheART inverted gear collaboration gi.
Dude, I dig it. The black and red.
We call it the deep red. Come on, man.
You're not going shallow with this, huh?
No.
You're going deep.
This is serious.
You're going deep with it?
This is the dark matter gi.
I like it a lot,
man.
You
can go to invertedgear.com.
Yeah,
you can place an order for it. You can type in the coupon code ShowtheART15, save 15%. You get that gi on a discount.
Damn.
Throw in a rash guard because you're trying to stay tight.
Yeah, if you're trying to look fresh, feel good, look good, perform good, you might as well get that on too, baby.
Boom. Inverted gear. Get it.
You're welcome.
Pangelinan. It's all American. It's like fifth, bro.
Pangelinan.
I
said when Abe actually sent me the text, I saw your name. I'm like, oh, he's Filipino because I know that last name. I got a couple.
Yeah, I'm actually from Guam, Chamorro.
Oh, really? I totally messed that up. I was telling Abe like he's Filipino, man. A lot of my Filipino friends, I got that last name.
Sucks, James.
Well, the only difference between Chamorro spelling and Filipino spelling is one letter in the name, and that's the E. P-A-N-G-E is Chamorro. P-A-N-G-I is Filipino.
That's right. Okay, you got me. Thank you for the history. Damn, nice. I'm not Filipino.
So, but you were born here.
I was born in Germany, actually. My dad was in the military.
Really?
Nice.
Okay.
Wait, is this podcast going?
Yeah, we're going.
Okay.
We're rolling.
Let's roll. Just in case, guys, we're probably mid into it, but guys, you're listening to the Show the Art podcast. We're honored. We have our main man, Bryant Pangelinan. There you go. He's on with us. Brian, how you feeling, brother?
Glad to be here. Thank you, guys.
No, thank you, man. Just before we move on, just can you give us a quick history on how you got into jiu-jitsu and just a backstory?
I started jiu-jitsu in 2003 out here in the Bay Area in California. Matter of fact, to take a step even further back, my first classes were in 94, 95. I was in college in Hawaii, and the UFC was just a new thing, and Ceasar Gracie was like one of the first Gracie academies in the United States, and he had an academy that he started out there at the college.
Okay.
And none of us really knew much about it. I was a wrestler my whole life, so I just thought it was like sloppy wrestling. So I took I took a bunch of private lessons with one of his guys, and but I didn't really get hooked. I was still wrestling at the time, so I was like, whatever. And then fast forward to 2003, my last wrestling tournament, my last freestyle tournament was then, and I started jiu-jitsu about a month later. My first school was the Ceasar Gracie Academy.
And with the Diaz brothers, right?
Yeah, actually, that's what's funny. It's like, when I first started, my best friend at the time, he just started fighting, and he himself was an All-American wrestler, and he's like, yeah, man, Ceasar wants a bunch of tough wrestlers to come down and train with his guys, and I didn't know who was who. And then my first day of practice, looking back, I had Nick and Nate Diaz in the room.
Wow.
Dave Terrell.
Wow.
Gilbert Melendez, Jake Shields, and Gil Castillo. So those are all like my first partners for the longest time.
Wow. No pressure.
Oh man.
no pressure.
That's no big deal. And I always joke to my students, I had my own team and everything, and I joke to my students, I'm like, you know what, you guys got it so easy.
Yeah.
When I first walked in the room, there's no introductory about how to tie your freaking belt. It was more like just survive. Just survive.
Wow.
Now, your first jiu-jitsu class was with the gi?
No, it was no gi.
Oh, so it was no gi. So you guys, actually it was probably a little easier for you, your first class, because it was no gi, hence the wrestling experience. A little bit.
The transition was easy for me to kind of adapt, and it was funny because like my first class, like it was fighter training that day. I didn't know what the heck was going on, and like Caesar's like, take these guys down. I was like, sure. So I took everybody down, and the next thing I know, I'm getting choked left and right. I was like, man, I gotta learn this shit.
Yeah, true. And Ceasar has been around for a long, long time. Who did you get promoted under throughout the years?
I got my blue and purple from Ceasar.
Nice.
And at that time, there was a lot of changes in my life going on. I was a cop for a long time as well, and so I just moved to a different city, and plus some team dynamics had changed, and a lot of the old school guys that I came up with, they started disbanding a little bit.
Okay.
And so I started to train at Jake Shields' old academy that he used to own in Berkeley.
Okay.
Just because it was easier for me to get to, and I just felt like the vibe there, was a little bit better for me.
Okay.
And
did you know Jake Shields from before?
I'm sorry?
Did you know Jake Shields from before you went to his academy?
Yeah. Well, okay. I mean, I knew Jake because, like, again, he was like one of the first guys I ever rolled with.
Okay, cool. Just making sure we're on the same page. Sorry.
Yeah. So I during that time, like, it was especially very popular for a lot of guys from different academies to cross train over at the original Fairtex in San Francisco.
Oh.
And I was also training there with my best friend and a bunch of different guys. And at that time, I'd met my old instructor who had started teaching there as well. So I just got my purple belt, and I had met my old instructor. His name was Alexander Crispin. He's a House Gracie black belt.
Okay.
And just doing a lot of cross training with him, and the fit just seemed to work in regards to me kind of unactively seeking a new instructor, a new person to learn from.
Sure.
During those years over at Caesar's, don't get me wrong, like I learned a lot from Ceasar, but it was one of those type of teams where all the guys that I came up with, they kind of they helped groom me. So the guys that I really can say that were some of my original teachers, Vinny Magalhaes actually gave me my blue belt at Caesar's.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
Yeah, Vinny was one of the resident instructors for a while.
Jeez.
And I was also learning from Dave Terrell. He was there quite a bit. And a lot of Caesar's and old school guys that were just there from day one with him.
Sure.
Now, during that time, I'm sorry?
I was going to say, what rank were guys like Jake Shields, Nick and Nate Diaz, Gilbert Melendez? What rank were they when you first started coming up? Like when you got your blue belt?
When I got my blue belt in 2004, 2005, something like that. After I think it was 2004. After about a year of training or so,
okay.
I got my blue belt. And Nick and Nathan and all those guys, I believe Nathan just got his blue. He's been a blue for a little while. I know Gilbert just got his blue.
Nice.
That's so funny.
Nick was a purple. Jake was a purple. Dave Terrell, he was the only black belt, of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Gil Castillo, he was a brown belt at that time also.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy to hear. Like, oh yeah, Nick Diaz, they were just blue and purple.
Blue and
belts.
purple. No big deal. No big deal.
And you know what? It's funny because, like, you know, when I look back at that time, also a lot of guys don't realize, like, the era that I started and that time that I started,
Sure.
it was also the same time that Caio Terra had come to the United States, and Ceasar had brought him in to be the resident black belt, and Vinny had left. And that's where some of the dynamics of the team changed, and Kyle had his own way of teaching.
I remember that whole
and then a lot of the old school guys, it just didn't fit well, and especially the way it was back at Caesar's. You know, we were kind of like a homegrown ragtag team, to where there were guys in the room that only showed up with a gi, some that showed up no gi, some that couldn't afford the gi, some that only had the pants, some that only had the top. You know what I mean? We were tough. We were tough because we groomed ourselves that way.
True.
And it was a lot of guys that respected each other because we were tough. You know, and then all of a sudden a guy comes in and tries to change the system. You know, some of us were just kind of like, hey, wait a minute, don't change something that already works.
Yeah.
You know?
Don't fix what's not broke, right?
True.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, things are the way they are. And to, again, fast forward a little bit further, like, I got my brown belt in 2010 after only being a purple for about a year.
Okay.
And that's where things really took off. I got my brown from Alexander Crispin and fought under him for quite a few years, and I got my black belt in 2012.
Nice, man.
Awesome, man. Great story. I mean, there's a lot of...
it's a colorful story just because of all the names that come through.
Oh, man. I got all kinds of stuff like that from those days.
Exactly.
Do you still keep in touch with some of those guys? Are you friends with all these guys?
Yeah, you know what's funny is, like, I did a seminar in Connecticut earlier this year, and the Rich McKeegan, the guy that runs the Black Belts for Butterflies that I'm a part of, great friend of mine, awesome guy. His wife works for ESPN, and so, you know, I'm a big sports buff. So they're like, "Hey, Brian, you want to go to ESPN?" I was like, "Hell yeah!" You know,
stoked.
The headquarters are there in Connecticut.
Yeah, man.
And so we're walking around, we're getting the whole tour guide thing, and at first we see Chael Sonnen, and Chael was like, "Hey, how's it going, guys?" You know, he's a super nice guy. Like, you know, we just start chopping it up.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm with a handful of guys from the seminar, and then, you know, he's like, "I'm on my way to the set to do, you know, an interview for the UFC thing, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Oh, cool." And then Gilbert Melendez starts walking by, and he's like, "Bri." I'm like, "Gil." You know, it's like people see him as like the champ. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I just see him as old Gil, you know, and like the guys that I was with, they're like, "Holy shit, like you're like, that's Gilbert Melendez." I'm like, "Dude, that's my buddy Gilbert," you know? It's like it's just like, it's like an old friend, you know what I mean? So,
man.
and he and I were just laughing and kind of like looking back and like, man, we've come a long way. You know, here he is going to get interviewed, you know, for ESPN's UFC event and all this crap. And I'm like, I'm there for a seminar. He's like, "What are you doing here?" So it was just like, you know, we definitely come a long way.
That's dope, man. If you could take all those years that you've been training, who was your favorite training partner and why?
I would say probably a guy that was ahead of his time and one of the toughest guys and scariest dudes to ever train with. And I used to just love it because of how challenging he was Dave Terrell. Dave was, if you just look back at it, especially when he fought in Abu Dhabi and all those things, like, God, the guy was just a terror, you know? And I loved training with Dave when I had those times with him. That was a lot. That was all pretty much no-gi stuff. But in the gi, gosh, man, I've trained with so many different guys. It's hard to pinpoint just one.
Yeah.
No pressure.
It's funny. It's funny looking back. You know, Nick Diaz was going inverted before it was cool. You know, and you know, seeing stuff like that, like all of a sudden come to fruition. It's like, wow, that was awesome.
Yeah. Man.
I would have to say probably one of the coolest guys that, I guess you would say one of the craziest experiences was rolling with Lovato.
Oh, there you go.
That felt like a giant wet blanket that you couldn't get off of you.
A wet blanket?
That makes it even
Why
worse.
a wet blanket?
Because it's stuck.
because you know you can kick the covers off when they're super just normal. Okay. But if it's wet, it's heavy, and it's all over you, and it sticks, and it's just horrible.
Maybe I like that. I'm gonna start using that.
Maybe I'm weird. Maybe I've never experienced a wet blanket on me.
Yeah, he never used a blanket before, so
no. I've never had a wet blanket on top of me. I'm sorry, I don't sleep outside in the rain like you do.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
So
go ahead.
Okay, I will go ahead. Thank you, Ames.
You're welcome, man.
Do you have any cool stories, any fond memories from training with some of these guys? You know, a lot of people look up to these people, Nick, Nate Diaz, Gilbert Melendez. Do you have any cool stories you can share with any of these guys, even Ceasar Gracie?
Yeah, you know, it's funny, like, thinking back, especially those Ceasar days, those early days, and again, man, I always tell my students this, like, I learned how to defend myself long before I knew how to score points,
Nice.
You know? Even before I won my first Nogi Worlds at Blue Belt, I had no idea what the point system was. I just went out there and ripped everybody's heads off, you know? It's like, I had no idea, you know what I mean? And then I learned later on the whole IBJJF game, I'm like, oh, I just thought I had to tap everybody, you know, like.
Nice. Is that one of the biggest lessons you learned?
Yeah, you know, that was a big turning point, I guess, and it's something that kind of stuck with me, and I instill that in my students. It's like, you know, I teach a very a hybrid style of jiu-jitsu as far as I like. I love the gi. I love no gi. Mm-hmm. People ask me, what is your favorite? I just say jiu-jitsu. I don't have a favorite. I just like to do both.
Sure.
But you know, I think it's good that the way I started, you know, it has its roots as far as, you know, just learning how to survive.
Yeah.
And it kind of, you know, you asked me about a story. Yeah, I have a funny one. It's like, I remember when Nick was getting ready for his fight with Lawler.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know, obviously Ceasar wanted all the wrestlers around him and, you know, just to put him through the grind and take him down and all that kind of shit. And like, and so we get in the old ring that we had there and like, you know, I just had a pair of Vale Tudo shorts on and a t-shirt and, you know, no gloves or nothing. And Caesar's like, yeah, man, you know, take Nick down. I was like, okay. And I look over and Nick had like the little 4-ouncers on. I'm like, not thinking anything of it, thinking we're just going to have like a grappling round or whatever. And I go out there and all of a sudden I'm getting peppered in the forehead 10 times.
Oh, shit.
And I'm like covering up, and then like I look over at Ceasar. I'm like, dude, he's punching me. He's like, kind of, he just shrugged his shoulders, like, that's Nick, bro.
I didn't sign up for this.
Oh man.
Yeah, but you know what? It's funny because, like, you know, I look back at it again. I'm like, God, those were cool times, and I'll never, you know, I never want to change that for anything.
Yeah. Wow. Why does that not surprise me that Nick would throw punches at you?
Or Ceasar would just shrug his shoulders like, that's your problem, not mine.
Yeah. It's like, again, it goes back to that, you know, hard old school lesson of like, you're going to learn the hard way. Here it is.
True.
Wow, that's
now,
crazy.
Now, moving on to, you're an accomplished, you know, competitive grappler. Can we get a little bit of insight on how your training is? What are some methodologies that you use? A lot of the top guys that we've been talking to, they've been preaching, a lot of the things people have been saying have been things like positional sparring, going in one position and just fighting from that position. Whether you win or lose, we just keep resetting. And the interesting thing is not everybody is like really into drilling. Some people like live and die by it, and other people are like, it's not as important as you think. What is your perception on that? How do you train? What makes you get better, essentially?
Well, the way I set up my curriculum for my team and my students is based off of, you know, whatever position we're working on for the week. Like, for example, all this week we did nothing but mount training.
Okay.
Defending the mount, attacking from the mount, you know, everything mount related, how to transition from the mount to side control to take the back and everything around it. So it kind of sets the tone for Monday. I have a 6 a.m. class Monday through Friday. So Monday, 6 a.m. sets the tone for the whole day and going forward. Uh-huh. So as we go into the training, I'll show something based off of, you know, what we want to do from the mount. Mm-hmm. And then we'll drill whatever I showed over and over for at least 20, 30 minutes. Towards the end of class, the last 20, 30 minutes of class, we'll do some situation training. Like, again, Monday started out with guys started from the mount. Person on the bottom is just trying to get at least half guard back. Person on the top is just trying to control or trying to finish.
Okay.
And it's 1 minute intervals, and we just keep the training moving. Like, person just moves down, person by person by person.
Yeah.
And it's a whole row of guys laying down, getting mounted.
Oof.
And we do those 1 minute intervals because you got 1 minute to try and get out or 1 minute to try and kill this guy, and it really pressures the person to work. I do that a lot from my own competition training, and I think that's super important.
Yeah.
As I get closer to tournaments, a lot of the position training is based on defensive positions like side control, back mount, and I'll throw myself under the bus constantly, and defend. And it's kind of like the way I was groomed, the way I was brought up, through my years of training. It's like your defense got to be solid.
Yeah.
Okay.
And aside from that, I do a lot of wrestling during the week. I started wrestling as a kid and all the way up through high school and college and stuff. So it's like once I kept going and never let go of it, it's hard to think pull guard right away when your instinct is to take a guy down and demolish him.
Yeah.
So true.
So and that's one thing that I definitely instill in my students is to be solid on your feet, whether it's your style is wrestling, your style is judo, because I offer judo class at my academy as well. I have a judo black belt that teaches there. So, my guys are versed in pretty much everything as far as the stand-up game.
Nice.
And also, I think it's important, whether you're competing gi or no gi, you got to train in both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I'm in agreement with that.
I'm sorry?
I'm in agreement with that. I think it's essential to train in both because there's some experiences, some transitions, some moments that you won't get by just doing one. There's a little bit that both have the offer. Right, and I just feel like I'm closing in on the No-Gi World that's coming up, and that's my tournament. That's the one that I shoot for every year, and we got about 6-7 weeks left to go, and things are going to start to pick up, and there's going to be a ton of more wrestling going on. Okay. But still, the gi rounds are still going to be there, and I find it to be not only like a training method that I use, especially for some cutting weight. I sweat a ton out in the gi, but it sharpens my mind. So I'll train gi at a 6 a.m. class that I teach with my guys leading up to No-Gi World. And then comes the noon class where a lot of my killers and a lot of visitors come in and train with us. We take the gi off, and all of a sudden, my mind is pretty much, warmed up and ready to go from earlier that day. And all of a sudden I take the gi off and everything's sharper, everything's, pinpoint, and everything's, much faster. And I don't know, I feel like it's one of those things where as soon as you put it on, it helps you, and as soon as you take it off, you'll see how much it did help you.
I get you.
Nice, man.
Wait, I got something. So you were a police officer, I believe, right? How did you get into going from a police officer straight to opening up your own gym, and how did that evolve to what it is now?
Well, I got out of law enforcement in 2009. Okay. And it was kind of like a bad time because the recession out here in California, especially, it hit pretty bad. And, I kind of had to go back into my fallback career, which was personal training and also teaching jiu-jitsu. Okay. And I was still a brown belt at the time. And, purple belt, purple brown, something like that. And I was like, man, I just got to keep grinding out. And I was still trying to get back in, but it was just a really hard time. Yeah. And so I just kept teaching. I must have been teaching at probably 5 different places at the time around here in the Bay Area. And, I was like, it was tough. It was tough. I went through a really hard time, especially you live the life as a law enforcement officer. You make good money. It's hard hours, but you make good money. Yeah. And all of a sudden, I'm grinding like I used to, like when I was in college and stuff. I'm like, holy crap, I look back and I'm like, thank God I kept going and I didn't stop. And
absolutely.
Now,
after I got I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to cut you off, but what kind of police hours did you work? Because I have a couple of friends that are cops in town, and some of them in different towns. Some of them work like 12-hour shifts. like for 2 weeks, and then they switch to like a night shift. But some of them have a set schedule. How did your schedule work out?
Well, it's funny because like, I think back, especially like my when I was a rookie, that was the worst because they throw you in graveyard shift, they throw you in the night shift, and you're a zombie, and I have a son, and he was really young at the time, but he was still in elementary school, and like I would start work at 7 p.m. and get off at 7 a.m.
Wow.
And but normally, I mean, even though you had a 10, 12-hour shift, you can guarantee it's going to be 14, sometimes 16 hours just based on what went on that day.
Yeah.
And when I was a rookie, if the shift went well, I would get off of work at 7 a.m., shoot on over, pick my son up from his mom's house, take him to school, go to the gym right after that, go train jiu-jitsu, go home, sleep for a few hours, pick my son up again from school, feed him, homework, the whole nine, drop him back off at his mom's house, go straight to work.
Oh, the grind was real. The grind was real.
I'm tired just thinking about that.
Thank God we got coffee right now, man.
Holy crap.
Yo,
Good
props,
for you,
man.
Yeah.
Props, brother.
Holy crap. That's crazy. Wow. So how many hours did you sleep? Like 5 hours every day?
Yeah, but you know what? I've been one to get by on 4 to 5 hours since I was like in high school.
Okay.
When I was in high school and I was in wrestling, like we ran, maybe 12 miles a day.
Ooh.
And it was just aside from cutting weight and just all that stuff, like my dad would wake me up early in the morning before school. He'd say, "Get up, you got to go run." I'd go run. I'd come home, get ready for school. Nice. Go to wrestling practice after school. Run there. Oof. Go home, do my homework.
No big deal.
Run after dinner, and then go to bed.
Wow.
So like I was always, yeah.
So were you?
I'm just used to that.
Were you on the running team or the wrestling team? I don't get it.
Oh man, that's what's funny because I always thought back. I'm like, damn, dude was on the fucking track team.
I know.
Yeah. Now,
might as well.
When you were a rookie as a cop, can I expect things like the movie Super Troopers, how they treat like the rookies? Like, was there a lot of antics and you were getting shoved in lockers?
Oh yeah,
your head gets shaved.
The one thing, you guys, about that job, and especially now, these officers these days, they have it to shit, and they're getting so much flack for what they do. And it's like, if you don't know the job, if you've never put yourself on the line like that, and risk your life for an absolute stranger, then don't sit there and try and be an expert about it.
Yeah, definitely.
When I was an officer, trust me, like we did things just to cope with what we saw and what we dealt with.
Okay.
And I worked in probably one of the worst areas up here. I worked in the heart of the ghetto, pretty much.
Okay.
And it was just really bad. So seeing everything from bodies on the ground to kids being killed to kids being raped to old women getting their ass beat. It's like, you name it. I've dealt with the bottom of humanity. And it's like, you think about, how cops are, and you think about the life expectancy of cops. Even health insurance, they love cops. Why? Because they're easy money.
Yeah.
As far as like their drinking, their bad eating habits, their smoking. Why do they do that? Because they're stressed.
Yeah.
And my whole I don't drink, I don't smoke. My coping mechanism my whole life has been training.
Yeah.
So, even when I was in the police academy, which was a grind in itself, 6 months of just, trying to get through, it's like boot camp plus college. Yeah. My recruits that I was with are like, how do you still have time to go train jiu-jitsu and deal with your kid? I'm like, I just make time.
Yeah.
And like even...
I'm sorry, you keep going.
No, I was just going to say, like, even now, I'll be 40 in November, and my son's 15 now. He's in high school, and I run my own academy. I teach, like, almost all the classes, all day long, and I train to get ready for tournaments. I travel to do, tournaments. I travel to do seminars. It's like, you prioritize and you make those times.
Yeah. True. Yeah. I was going to say, one thing about police officers is I feel like the job is not meant for everybody, but it's almost like anybody could get the job. And especially around here, like, all you have to do is be at least like 18 years old And once you get in the police, even if you're of age, all you have to do is know somebody. And once you know somebody, you could get in. You could be this punk kid, jerk kid that's been bullying people all throughout high school. And then once you get to know somebody, you become a police officer. Now you're the biggest jerk. And like, that's not the right job for you. It's an impossible job. What we keep hearing from every cop, it's an impossible job to cope with, to deal with. But once they become, I always felt like there should be a higher age minimum. Like, you need to be like matured as an adult. You need to have all these adult experiences before you can start dealing with other people's lives. I feel like the age requirement should be like 25, 26. I'm 27. I still feel like a kid. I still feel like I haven't dealt with enough experience to be able to deal with those type of things that you're talking about. And we're we're allowing young kids to do this. It makes zero sense to me. I don't know if you agree with that.
Well, I definitely agree, but if you look back at the history, even the military, it's like they're sending young kids. My dad was one of them. My dad did 2 tours of Vietnam at the age of 18. You know, and he said, my dad. Again, my family's from Guam, so the first time my dad left the island was when he was shipped off to Vietnam.
Wow, that's crazy.
You know, and you talk about dealing with hard times and hard trials of coping. It's like kids these days. It's funny because like when I was a training officer in the police academy during my time as a cop, and I had 40, 50, 60 recruits come through, and I would see probably half of the room 20-year-old, maybe 21, 22 tops, with already 2-3 tours of Iraq.
Damn, man.
You know what I mean? So it's like you look at the experience of what these youngsters have gone through already. They may not have done stuff like raise a family or go do a corporate job, but man, they went through the shit already and seen a lot of stuff that some of these other guys have not. So it's hard to take a balance of, okay, what experience are we actually looking for? Yes. But I definitely see like a standard that has changed as far as the type of cop they're getting in there.
Sure. Now my point is too, like, it's not that I think all 18-year-olds or 20-year-olds or 22-year-olds are incompetent and not mature. There's many that become mature very quickly that that's the perfect job for them. But I feel like there are many that aren't, and this is not the type of job that we need to be playing with that type of chance. You know what I'm saying? And on another note, some of these cops out there need to get in the gym and work out. I don't know, man. It's kind of crazy.
I totally agree, and it's crazy because when I opened up my academy 2.5 years ago, I was very vocal in regards to the type of environment I was like housing. Very pro law enforcement, very pro patriotic type person that I am. Like, I'm all about that, and I harbored a certain type of individuals around me that I felt like, all right, these are the kind of people that I would call my friends. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And I have about 180 plus students. I think I have about maybe 60 to 70 cops on my team.
Wow, nice.
And
it's a powerful team.
It's crazy. It's crazy because a lot of them, I started from scratch, and I have high as brown belts that are cops. And, these guys, again, they're the ones that are also teaching their own departments, but they stress to it over and over to these guys out here, like, hey, you got to get in there and learn something.
Hell yeah.
You got to get in the gym and take care of yourself, because that mentality, it's crazy, because even when I was a cop, and I was always, you got to have thick skin to be in that line of work.
Sure.
And even when you're dealing with your cohorts that'll sit there and, rub elbows with you and give you a hard time, like, I always, guys always made fun of me in the department. They're like, they call me Pang because of my last name, Pangelinan.
Okay.
They're like, hey, Pang, what's up with your ears, dude? I'm like, well, my ears have more fight in them than you do. And like,
so true.
And it's true.
And then they're like, well, if we ever encountered a guy like you, I'm just going to shoot you. I'm just like, well, that's a really piss poor attitude for somebody that could probably do a lot less lethal type of thing if you actually knew how to fight.
Yeah. Man. So true. The ignorance in some people, and it goes beyond being a cop. It's just an ignorant person. Like, I'm all for cops. I love cops. I have a bunch of cop friends, and I love this country. But, some people are just idiots, whether they're scientists, doctors, they work at Target, or they're billionaires. Some people are just idiots. And
I would say biased. Yeah.
What'd you say?
Yeah, biased. Oh, they just don't understand. Like, just jiu-jitsu.
Ignorant.
It's like,
Ignorance. But I'm all for cops. Don't get it twisted. This is not like a rant against cops. Trust me. I love cops.
Right.
We need cops.
Yeah.
The good ones are
Absolutely.
good. Yeah. So what's next for you on your competition agenda? You have the Worlds. Do you plan on doing any MMA? Is that of your interest? Do you even train stand-up martial arts?
No, it's crazy. Like, in the early days, definitely during the Caesar time, we did a lot of MMA because you had to learn how to fight. And that was during a time when I was way more active on that end of MMA training.
Okay.
Nowadays, that's not something I'm even, I put it this way. In my academy, I don't even offer stand-up class. There's no, I'm not, that's not my thing. It's all grappling related.
Okay.
But no gi wolves is the one thing on my priority list as far as competing.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a super fight the weekend after in Minnesota.
Nice.
For what company?
So that it's my good buddy Tim Blackstone. It's up there with the Alliance team.
Mm-hmm.
He's running this big brewery event, and it's kind of in conjunction with the Mission 22 project.
Oh, okay.
And I'm a big time advocate as far as like the foundations that I'm involved with. I do a lot of stuff for the veterans with the Mission 22. Also the We Defy Foundation.
Yeah.
Everything I've ever done is all volunteer work. I do a lot of stuff for autism as well, and even cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these, groups that I go and do seminars with, it's all on my own dime. I don't make anything. I'm going out there just to help. Yeah. But as far as competition wise, just no gi worlds.
Cool, man. I want to get into that. Your volunteer work, because I saw that in one of the on through the text, and I just really think that's really cool, something admirable. Like, how did you get into this? Like, what got into your heart that kind of made you want to do all these kind of the Mission 22, the autism, the cancer awareness, all those
volunteer
things.
Work?
Yeah, all the volunteer work. Thank you.
It's crazy because for as long as I can remember, even learning from my dad, like just to help and serve people, and it all came full circle, especially a couple of years ago. My instructor now that I fall under, Carlos Sapao, he's also a House Gracie black belt himself.
Okay.
And he and I are big time into samurai culture and reading about samurai history and one day he pulled me aside. He's like, look at your whole life, man. You were a police officer. You were there to serve the people. Nothing has changed now that you are an academy instructor and a black belt, and you do all these things now. You're still putting on a uniform. You're still here to serve these people.
Yeah,
that's what samurai means. It means to serve. So if you look at it, it's like everything that I'm trying to do. It's not for any to gain any recognition of anything. It's just I enjoy helping people better themselves. I enjoy helping people to try and pull whatever is out of them.
Absolutely.
That can make them better because it was done for me. And I just feel like, again, I'll do so many things throughout the year, and it's all because I just love helping. That's it.
Cool, man.
What inspires you? What inspires you to get all this shit done? And I don't mean shit in a bad way. I mean shit in like a general good way. Like, what inspires you to keep pushing and to serve people,
keep grinding,
whether you're teaching jiu-jitsu or being a police officer or giving your time to charity and helping raise money or just helping people in general? What inspires you? Two ways: on a regular, like everyday basis, and on a long-term basis.
I think on a daily, it's definitely my family, my son. Definitely want to try and, give him a good, example to set for him as my dad did. Like my dad, served our country. My dad busted his butt, for 30 plus years, for working for the federal government after his military life, and, took us around the world and really took me and my brother and showed us, life, as a whole versus just, the way he kind of grew up, the main part of his life was just on a tiny island.
Yeah.
So his whole thing was just like, hey, I want to show you guys the world. I want to show you what life is all about. And I think as far as like keeping the move forward to try and help people, it's like, man, I want to show people that there's so much more than what's right in front of you.
Yeah.
And if you get out there and try and pull that kind of person out of you, as far as like this inner being that you're totally not aware of, but I know it's there. Why? Because I was that guy too.
Yeah,
I was very introverted for a long time, and then all of a sudden, like, I started doing sports and wrestling and jiu-jitsu, and like all of a sudden, this whole other side of me came out. And like, even my parents, they always reminded me, like, you were so shy as a kid. I was a little pain in the ass, but I was always really shy. Versus my brother was so extroverted and people person, and Mr. Everybody. And me, I was just kind of like kept to myself, and now serving people to me is probably one of the most fulfilling feelings.
Wow. Absolutely, man. I could relate to that just because, well, I work in the strength and conditioning field. Like, I started jiu-jitsu maybe like a year and a half ago, but it's the service, like helping people. Cause it's, when you train, when you lift, it's not to get away, but it brings something out of you. You feel alive. You know what I mean? And if we could help that with anyone and teaching them things, because a lot of people, as coaches, as trainers, we have to remember that sometimes people need that 1 hour to get away from like everything. Right? Yeah, right. And it's just a great and to build people up. Like, it's cool. Like, you teach like the kids classes and all that. Like the next generation. Like, that's kind of like our legacy, right? Like, your kid, like, hopefully when I have kids, it's like to pass that down. And, that's what's builds character. I never had an older brother. Like, for a bit, my family separated. So I always longed for an older brother to teach me, like, right, the wrong, like, because I came in from kind of like, I wasn't poor, but it was kind of, I grew up in the hood. So it was rough. And, I always wanted someone to kind of show me the way. I never had that. So like, when I teach or when I help people out, it's thinking that I don't want you going through the things I went through. I want you to stay away from that. Yeah, so that's cool, man.
Ames, I'll be your big brother.
Thanks, man. I'll pass.
Hey, I think I'm not probably the oldest amongst the three of us. I'll be your big brother.
yeah,
there you go.
You know what? I'd rather take that. I'll take that. Right.
Listen, man. By all means, you're both my big brothers.
Yeah, you got no choice.
I'm probably the youngest.
Yeah, you are. I'll let me say you are.
And here's another thing. Like, I'm in agreement with both you guys. My career is teaching jiu-jitsu and martial arts. I teach kids every day. I got 3 kids classes lined up and an adult class later. Like, this is my life. And I love that I can maybe change one kid's life. Yeah, maybe change one adult's life.
Oh, yeah.
And once you see a kid change from being a really shy to himself or herself, no confidence, and then 2 years later, like, they're the most like lively kid in class, that's a good feeling. That's what it's all about.
Oh yeah,
yeah, man.
I love telling my students, whether it's the adults, especially the adults. I love because you can rub them into them a little bit harder. Like, I always remind them, I remember your first day as a white belt.
Yeah.
You fucking suck. And they'll just laugh and they'll be like, God, man, I was just a bag of ass back in the day, wasn't I? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, now look at you.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. Like, one of my top students, he's a world champ brown belt, and the guy's done it all and been all over the world. And like, I always remind him of his white belt days when he was completely, idiotic and doing dumb things.
Yeah.
I'm like, you remember that guy? He's like, oh. He's like, don't bring me back, please.
Yeah, it's almost embarrassing to listen about your own white belt days. Like, man, I was a klutz.
Yeah. But it's like that journey you go through. You know what I mean? Like, when the same thing. I agree. Like, at the gym, it's just like seeing someone who could barely do a squat until back squatting, whatever, or snatching. It's a great feeling to see. Like, it's all hard work. If you're just determined, if you just come in every single day, you'll be good.
Yeah,
you'll be great. You know. Yeah, everyone wants like the secret recipe. Like, what do I need to do? Just come in, get 1% better. Yeah, Ben Henderson's one of my favorite fighters. That's all he says. Get 1% better every day. And that's the kind of like the thing I live by right now. Just a little bit better every single day, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's funny that I tell my students all the time, even my girlfriend and like my son, I'm like, even if you have a horrible day on the mat or even outside off the mat, if there was one positive, one thing you pulled away, like let's say in training, you pulled off one sweep, or you were able to, escape one mount or escape one sub or whatever. There's that one positive.
Exactly.
Hold on to that one positive.
Exactly.
That means it wasn't a complete mess for the whole day. At least you pulled away with one positive thing, and you build from that.
Absolutely, man. I totally agree with that, man.
Perfect, man. And on that note, we're running out of time. We kind of got to go.
Sure.
Yeah,
but,
Brian, thank you so much for jumping on with us, man.
Yeah.
I'm getting all fired up towards the end, man.
Yeah, man, you're a cool guy, but more importantly than being very cool, you're an inspiration to many
great
people.
Heart, man. Thank you.
This is the first time we got a chance to really talk, and you're very inspiring. You have a good message, and we hope that you continue on this path, and I hope that you inspire many more people, just like you've inspired us.
Kill it at the Worlds, brother.
Thank you guys so much. And anytime you find yourself out on the West Coast in the Bay Area, come by Saber Jiu-Jitsu. You got a home with me.
Oh, brother.
Nice.
Before we head out, do you want to plug anything in, like your Instagram, Facebook, if anyone wants to reach out to you around the area?
If you use the one hashtag, it's one of my favorite ones to use. Your diet sucks. You'll find me.
Oh shit. Okay.
Well, that was easy. Thank you, my man.
Thanks, man.
Yo, Brian, thank you so much.
I'm all over the place, guys. So saberbjj.com. Find us on all the social medias. Again, you guys, I'm easy to get a hold of.
There you go,
dude. Good luck at the Worlds, and thanks a lot. We'll talk to you soon,
man.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, take care, brother.
Peace.
All right.
Peace,
guys. Thanks a lot for listening. If you like our podcast and you want us to continue to provide all these fun, entertaining, and educational all this good stuff, please give us a good rating on iTunes, on any website that you can find us at.
Share it,
download it.
Don't be stingy.
Yeah.
Don't be stingy, man.
Don't
hold on to this.
Don't go on the torrent sites and download us. Just go on iTunes. Yeah, it's free.
Give this gift to everyone else that you think this could be.
Give the gift that keeps on giving. And that's showtheART
and that's
podcast. Us. And check out our newsletter. Each month we're giving away free stuff, and we're going to be starting contests exclusively on the newsletter.
You get that fresh gear.
Yeah. So all you have to do is subscribe to it. If you go to our Facebook page,
it's easy.
It's easy. There's a link there.
Put your name, your email, and we'll take care of the rest.
We'll take care of the rest, and we won't bombard you. Trust me. I'm not about that bombarding.
We're not
life.
about that spam life.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
So
Abe, let's go train, man. We out.
Bye.
Peace.